Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to say that we don't know one another, but I think you're going to know that there's a lot of synergy in what we're sort of saying. Yes, I'm the chief executive of a small finance company, and we invest in Scotland. I'm going to talk about that. But I just want to say, first of all, that one of the reasons I'm so terribly proud of Scotland and what Scotland is doing is that I was born in Glasgow, brought up there. And my parents, one of these people that took their 3 young daughters south because of the need for decent housing way back more years than I'd like to talk about. And so I have great family roots in Scotland, and I'm really glad that I'm working for a company that's investing in Scotland and working with the Scottish Parliament. So I just want to give a sort of quick overview. And I do want to start with saying about Scotland influencing on the world stage. And I think you'll see that a lot of my presentation is not about how we, although I'm going to talk about how we can finance some of this in the public sector, but it's actually about how we influence and persuade the world on change. Because as has been indicated so well by John, is that actually if Scotland does everything that it plans to do with its great ambitions, I'm afraid the road to Paris is not actually via London and the tunnel. The road to Paris is via Texas and New York, about how we are actually going to influence the nation that needs to make the huge changes if any of this is going to work. And I think, and one of the reasons why I've recently registered at an American university where I'm studying this, is to really try to understand the systems that both will influence at a local level so that the ambitions of somewhere like Scotland can be realised, but actually that we can take some of the real things that are happening in Scotland and begin to influence on a wider world stage, because it's only that world stage that is really going to make that difference. So what I'm going to talk about today, again, is that we're here because although we've heard about that there's been failed targets and our hearts sink, although I do have something to question about the way the measurement of that is being done, and we're doing a research project at the moment on additionality and how that is properly measured, and I hope it's going to influence that, is that actually I want to talk about the sorts of things that are going on where we're seeing innovation, and I am absolutely convinced in that innovation that we're seeing in the public sector, that can be taken around the world, and there's absolutely no reason why others can't do it. Because what we're doing is we're linking how do we make change happen, how do we make the resources available to drive that change, and how do we make the limited money that we have available actually sweat for us in a way that is meaningful. Now, the Salix model, we're only investing in the public sector, is that we've invested 19.3 million in energy efficiency projects. Now, I can say that 19.3 million and know that people from the Scottish Parliament are saying, where did that 19.3 million come from? Because they're thinking 15. Well, what we've been able to show in the projects that we've done over the short time we've been working in Scotland is we've turned the 15 million that Scottish Parliament has invested with us into projects that value of 19.3. And those projects, and I'm going to say a bit more about them, will in their lifetime secure £68 million worth of savings and contribute to significant long-term CO2 reductions. For every pound that's being invested in the model that we have, which is that simply what we do is we offer to the public sector interest-free loans, that those loans are repaid from the savings they make, from the energy efficiency measures that are put in. Most of the work that we do, The repayments are within 5 years. In schools, it's a bit longer, and I want to say a little bit more about that. And as those repayments are being made, we are reinvesting them in new energy efficient projects. And I believe that this particular model of influencing the world stage can make a significant difference in the public sector, which is squeezed for revenue and also squeezed for capital. Grants give a one-off result. I'm hoping that the research that I'm going to be doing as part of this university will be based in Scotland to try and demonstrate how one of the paradoxes we're dealing with is how do we invest in this to get the results that we all desire to have. The other thing that we found is that because of the influence we're bringing to bear in the public sector, more and more of our customers are actually bringing their funding to the table as well. So projects are going ahead because universities, local authorities are also putting some of their funding in to make this stack up. I want to give you an example of what I think is one of the great value for money things that we've done. In 2007, we invested with HEFCE, which funds the university sector, £25 million. And that has funded, since 2007, over £94 million of energy efficiency in that sector. And the lifetime savings of these projects, because we know that the technology now that we're putting in, and I know there's some great exhibitors here, that technology has a longer lifetime, and the private sector is investing in the technology that means there are long-term results from this new technology that drives down the use of energy. In 2014, we've just launched a new strategic partnership with HEFCE. We're using 17 million of our funds. HEFCE has brought 17 million of their funds, and we've now started to assess a huge range of projects that are going to drive change in the university sector in England. What we know about energy efficiency, which I know has already been mentioned by the previous speaker, is that actually energy efficiency links to supporting the new economy that has to drive how we take our national economy forward. The estimation at this moment is that 15 jobs are created for every 1 million that's invested in energy efficiency. And we're talking big numbers about what we're doing across the UK. And of course, this has brought a lot of interest from government departments as to how much, because the money that we're spending in the public sector is actually supporting the private sector, because they're the people that are doing the installation, and they're also the people who are marketing this new technology that we all need to understand how it works so much better. Investment from Scotland, because we were limited originally as to where we could work in Scotland, was in higher education and now in local authorities. I just wanted to say very briefly that we think that what we're doing is supporting the local economy in Scotland, and of course there needs to be greater work done on procurement so that local frameworks can ensure that work and jobs and all the innovation that we want to see in Scotland is taking place. So I want to say something now about how Salix can help Scotland achieve, and I hope you don't mind I'm rattling through this because I know there's time that we've got to catch up with, how Scotland can help achieve the low ambition. So, and I want to talk about a practical example, something that's it's small, but it's so significant and could be taken onto the world stage. We've started a programme of school loans in making a difference, and this also links to within schools, we're looking at the behaviour changes and how we influence the younger generations. to make a difference, to understand how schools use energy. We have developed a tool which we make available to any school in the country that says we can go in and we can look at how your current energy is used, and we can show what energy could be taken out, what energy consumption could be taken out quickly, or what can be done in the longer term, and how a funding model can go alongside that tool. It allows schools to make choices about what suits them. And of course, this is very important because what we know about our school stock is it ranges from Victorian buildings, which are quite difficult to do things to almost stuff that was built in the 50s and 60s that, you know, if it blows hard enough, it might even fall down. So we've got huge differences in how do you tackle who are great consumers of energy. I've seen the figures. It is eye-watering what energy is going into our schools. Now, what's happened is that schools have now been nationally benchmarked, and I apologise, but in fact, Scotland doesn't collect the figures in the same way that I've been able to do with the UK. So I'm going to take you through this next slide, which I think is stunning. The blue line represents every primary school in the UK and where they stand in their energy consumption per pupil per year. Now, at that end, we're thinking, well, how could they do that? That's our special schools. And what we've done is the blue line marks every school. Salix have worked with a number of schools, and we've tried to work with schools along the whole line to show that it works everywhere. And you can see that there we have the red line, which is the standard at which we're trying to get every primary school to. And the green line represents where they've dropped from the blue line following the implementation of an energy efficiency projects in that school. Even down to those that were already below the line, just how much further could be squeezed out. And the idea is to move that blue line so that it is actually with the red line. Huge amounts of energy efficiency to be saved in our schools. And in schools, this is paid for by 8-year paybacks, but of course we can extend that payback if the type of technology would really drive that down. And that's the sort of thing that means that targets really can be met because of the volume that's going on in our schools, but also what we're doing alongside that is influencing the behaviour and the understanding of younger people, and we're encouraging schools to bring parents in to explain what's been going on, how the school is doing this, and how that can influence what happens in their own homes. There are 2 more examples which I want to give, which are actually, in my view, inspiring and on the road to Paris. This is the stuff that we have to put in front of the policymakers and the influencers to say, if every university in the United States did this, this would not mean that their economy would collapse. It would actually mean that influence and change could begin to happen. And I'll start firstly with the University of St Andrews. The University of St Andrews have, I mean, you can all read, these slides are available for you. Look at the savings that are being made on carbon, the savings, the annual cost savings of over £750,000 by the project that they put in, and how much the 1.6 million is now funding over £3 million worth of projects. St Andrews is leading the way by their award-winning data centre. Data centres, huge consumptions of energy. From an annual savings, so it's all up there. And if every single, it's the gold standard that they've been given by CEDA, If every single university, everyone could do this. It's not that difficult, but of course it does need what's been talked about here, both political leadership from the Parliament, leadership within local government, and leadership within the universities, because this matters, and this is the stuff that is making the big difference. The other case study, the first council that we worked with, not the first council in the country, I have to say, that did street lighting. But one of the things that the Scottish Parliament funded through Salix was to enable every local authority in Scotland to have access to a loan from us in order that they could do one project to influence and show that street lighting, because of the improved technology that's gone on in lighting, there are huge savings and energy savings, financial and carbon savings together that can be made. And this was a project where the payback period on the loan is 7.6 years, but the technology, as you know, has a much, much longer lifespan. We've been working with the Scottish Future Trust in the past 2 years, supporting their pilot, as I've said, on street lighting. We're working with over 17 of the Scottish councils. We have 7 million already allocated, and we believe that we are influencing, and there is a great capacity for us to do more in Scotland, and to show that what is being expected on a world stage, if it can be done in Scotland, actually, it can be done lots and lots of places. It just needs the combination of that political leadership and an understanding of how all these things, the economy, how you finance this, is actually interlinked to make it happen. My conclusions that I would say, in order that policymakers can think about this, is if we're going to make assets sweat, then we should be looking for loans for energy efficiency in the public sector rather than grants. You know, I could tell you a great story. I will tell you this great story. We're doing some projects in England at the moment where we have a queue of people wanting and have fund that we know the finance model starts stacking up to do some projects with us. And a government department in the UK has just announced that they're going to give grant funding for this. It's absolute waste, because that grant funding could be doing something else to actually improve the infrastructure and the things that we need to do. And it just seems to me that much as we say it, people don't talk to one another to bring this together so that we can make it happen. I also think we need to look at the payback periods with the new technologies in order that we can put the long-term technologies in that really make the difference. I think we have to be influencing the public sector as part of the political leadership in Scotland, that this matters and that we're going to do this because it matters in Scotland, but we know that this matters worldwide. I believe to be on the real stage of influencing, we need exemplar projects like the ones I've suggested today to take forward and to be saying to people, this is possible, this can happen. And we can demand that the public sector makes its contribution. I think in climate change, it's only right to say we have to be bold and we have to be brave, because it really, really matters. And I'm inspired when I go to schools and I see what they're doing, that actually we have new generations that understand this so much better than I think many of us do, because it is their earth that actually we want them to inherit. Thank you very much for listening.